Welcome to ChessBase Magazine 160. The top tournaments of this issue are the Candidates Tournament in Siberian Khanty-Mansiysk, which was won, slightly surprisingly, and no one had really expected it, or almost, but Vishy Anand made it. Congratulations to him and his whole team for this strong comeback. And he has annotated his victory against Veselin Topalov for the CBM. How did he continue here with white to move? Okay, white is much better. Black's king and queen must protect the pawn e6 and the invasion square f6, the queen. And the bishop also has important defensive jobs. So how to crack Black's castle? And take your time. c3, and Zugzwang decides the issue. King and queen cannot move. Bishop d3 is refuted by queen f3 check. So basically e4 and f5 remaining. Bishop f5 also is not good. Find out why. So Topalov opted for bishop e4. And now the strong undermining c4 decides the day. White now can simplify to a winning endgame in all cases, and Vishy converted the queen endgame convincingly. He has annotated the game, but of course for this video format I had to delete almost all annotations due to the space limitations. Second was Sergei Karyakin, and his second, Alexander Motylyov, has annotated Karyakin's strong performance against Petr Svedler, where he managed to convert a rook and opposite colored bishop endgame by a beautiful exchange sacrifice. So study it, and of course especially the endgame. The European Championship in Yerevan was won by, guess it, Karyakin's second, Alexander Motylyov, with 9 points out of 11 games, and he was leading by 1 point in the end. So really strong performance by Motylyov, and Karyakin was only second, but this of course also was a very strong performance. So it was a good time for Alexander Motylyov. And the third top tournament is the Gashimov Memorial in Shamkir, Azerbaijan, which was won by reigning world champion Magnus Carlsen with 6.5 out of 10, and again leading by 1 point at the end. But it wasn't as clear as it now looks, because during the tournament he lost 2 games in a row, which doesn't occur very often for a reigning world champion, against Fabiano Caruana and Timur Rajabov. Both have annotated their games for the CBM, and this of course shows that it is really a special moment and a special game to beat the world champion. There are 13 opening surveys, and furthermore videos by Shirov, a Semislav game with black, by Vtarchnik and Trent on the Sicilian with second move d6 and third move bishop b5 check. So I want to show you shortly 3 of the surveys. The first by Boykov and Markidis. It is, in a way, from White's point of view, in the following line of the Sicilian. Again, bishop b5, but here, of course, not check. Adams Caruana, Istanbul Olympia 2012. And they claim that White has a slight but persistent advantage here in this line. Now, after e5, it looks slightly like some kind of Spanish structure, and they look at d4 or knight a3, and I think in both cases White should be slightly better. And after bishop g4, h3, White's bishop pair should also give him a slight but long-term advantage. So if you play this with White, then study the article, and with Black, of course, you must find a measure if you go for the position after bishop f1 in the 7th move. Next, a survey by Viktor Moskalenko, the Budapest Gambit, and a sharp weapon for black, which is very double-edged. Okay, the e5 was Budapest Gambit, and then knight g4 is Budapest Gambit. Knight e4 would be Ferriarowitz Gambit. This now is the Budapest Gambit. And here Moskalenko looks at the very sharp g5. This is Wojciech Jabava, Weigansee 2014. Yeah. Black makes a lot of pressure against e5, but had to pay some price, of course. The dark squares can be weak at black's camp. And here I think Wojciech's knight takes e5 is okay, of course, but Jobaba managed to equalize and then even to create quickly strong pressure with black. While Lamy's suggestion h takes c5 might be critical. Okay, so if you are interested here, then I'll analyze first a bit why this is playable, and an unprepared opponent wouldn't go for the complications, I guess. But on the other hand, Lamy's suggestion might be critical. For more details, consult Moskalenko's survey. Yeah, and last not least, Lars Schandorf looks at a typical variation from the Petrov defense. Here d4 is a traditional main line, but knight c3 has found a lot of followers in the recent times. Here white could go for bishop e3 or bishop f4 as main lines. Landa Kozyrev was bishop e3. Schandorf looks now mainly at knight e5. After knight d4, which might be slightly dubious, black can opt for c5 and bishop e6. And I think here black has very good compensation for the pawn, because with opposite side castling, it's not so important that white is an extra pawn. More important is that black has the initiative. The speed of the attack is often crucial. And here it looks good for black by intuition, because at the moment play is more or less concentrated against white's queen side. So I think that in the position after knight e5, it might be better to follow Karyakin Frolyanov from the Moscow Aeroflot Rapid 2013 and play the prophylactic king b1. And after c6, I think that Karyakin has obtained a very slight edge. It is again not so important that black has a mobile majority on the king side. More important is here with opposite side castling, where the play is concentrated, where the action is. And here white might manage to follow a central strategy to get control over the board. And yeah, Karyakin managed to get a slight advantage, and in the end even converted. Now on the columns, Oliver Ray looks at mate machineries at full blast. A nice tactic theme, of course. How to win here in Kahn Birnbaum European Championship Yerevan 2014. And take your time. Solve it yourself first, and really solve the exercises first. Only this is the way to improve. Don't just look at the solutions or only at the videos and then directly at the solutions. This is not the way to improve your tactical abilities, and they are really crucial. Rook c8 and Birnbaum resigned, and of course I must show here the smoothed mate. It is just so beautiful how white's mating machinery now executes the final stage of the attack. Of course, one should know such motives. They don't occur in every game, of course, but it is really important to know the basic tactical motives and patterns by heart, and to be able to use them and then to direct calculation during the game in the right directions if there are tactical opportunities available. Dorian Rogozenko looks in his strategy column at a very similar theme: position assessment, king safety. So yeah, they're really closely connected, the articles this time on tactics and strategy. Shamkovich Neshmedinov, Championship of the Soviet Union, Baku 1961. How did Rashid Nishmedinov with black start here, or start his attack is not really, continue his attack forcefully? Yeah, Queen h4 really brings the mating machinery in the direction of full blast, and white has no defense. And this is, yeah, one of the points why the light squared bishop is so important in the King's Indian, because otherwise it would be very difficult to blow open white's king position. But here, yeah, white cannot stop it. And yeah, it was soon over. A typical motive. In such motives you should really know this, especially if you play the King's Indian with black, or such systems with white against the King's Indian. Each opening has such a set of typical motives, both tactically and strategically, and yeah, you should really train them when you play, train them in your own openings. In the endgame column, I look at fortresses and hovels. So yeah, let's hope that you construct fortresses when you are material down, and your opponent hovels when he is material down, so that you can storm then. And there are certain techniques and strategies to storm fortresses, or at least to try to do it. So really make yourself familiar with them. And last not least, the opening trap by Rainer Knag from the French defense. This is Perunovic, Sedlak, Kragujevats 2011. Yeah, here black could play, among other things, bishop b4 or d takes e4, but knight f6 is also, of course, a major main line. And here I think f4 is his main line, but the trap is set with knight f3. Like most opponents will react with c5 anyway, and now the trap is set. How to exploit the mistake bishop e7, how to get a slight advantage with white. Really solve it yourself first, and then compare it with Rainer Knag's notes in traditional format or in video format. And now I wish you a lot of fun with ChessBase Magazine 160.